Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage. Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage. And someone will say his career can never be saved. Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Just Nicolas Cage, where I very slowly review Nicolas Cage's movies in order that they were released. Today I'm talking the 1987 movie, Moonstruck. Moonstruck stars Cher as an Italian-American woman in a passionless relationship with her fiancé Danny Aiello. While he's away in Italy, Cher meets his estranged brother, played by Nicolas Cage. And the two fall in love, but Cher is faced with a dilemma. Do you stay with Danny Aiello, or do you go with crazy Nicolas Cage? So I guess genre-wise you could call this a romantic comedy. Kinda. But it's quite an unconventional one. I mean, there's romance and there's comedy, but it really does show the messy side of romance in a way. Characters just shout at each other and then have sex with each other. Like, Cage picks up Cher at one point and just throws her into his bed. What I'm trying to say is it's not really your Hugh Grant kind of a rom-com. The film almost feels like a series of vignettes at times. I mean, you do have that central story I was talking about with Cher and Nicolas Cage, but there's quite a lot of B stories to it. Cher's parents have their own storyline that takes up a lot of the movie. And there's quite a few like weird little quirky moments with these side characters, minor characters, that I really liked. Like there's one point where some random old lady just starts talking to Cher, and she starts telling this whole backstory about how her sister stole her lover, and now she's gonna put a curse on the guy. Then you never see that old lady ever again in the movie. But what I like is that it does tie into the central themes. I mean, infidelity and curses, like those are big motifs of the film. Another minor character I really liked was Frasier's dad from Frasier, John Mahoney. He makes an appearance near the start of the movie in this kind of one-note throwaway gag scene. But then, like, way later in the film, that character shows up, and then the scene really dives into that character. John Mahoney really does a great job for the handful of scenes he's in. And it's these kind of great little unexpected moments that make these ancillary characters feel three-dimensional that I really enjoyed. Cher is very good here, too. She plays quite a no-nonsense character, and she has a cool New Yorker accent. I rooted for her to find love. I mean, they do kind of immediately make you not want to like Danny Aiello, so they kind of set you up to root for her to find somebody else. And that leads me on to my boy Nick Cage. So as I said, he plays Cher's fiancé's estranged brother. And they really build up early on that Nicolas Cage hates Danny Aiello, his brother. So Nicolas Cage shows up about 25 minutes in, and he gives this killer, amazing monologue. He goes in and out of his Italian accent. He's gesturing with this fake hand.
I lost my hand! I lost my bride! Johnny has his hand! Johnny has his bride! You want me to take my heartbreak, put it away, and forget?
He goes, yeah, huh, sweetie?
And I should be so happy, huh, sweetie?
And when he finally reveals why he hates his brother so much, you kind of go, I don't really think the brother did anything that bad. In a way that Nick Cage often does best, the scene kind of toes the line between being funny and genuinely impressive acting. It really is a fascinating scene though, it's definitely the highlight of the film. I do find it kind of strange that Cher and Olympia Dukakis won acting Oscars for this movie. And Vincent Gardina was nominated for like Best Supporting Actor. And Nicolas Cage was up for nothing. Like to me he's as good if not better than the three of them in this film. I suppose it is a very broad, over-the-top kind of performance. But I don't know, to me it feels like a snub if you're giving the other three some Oscars. Another one of the stronger points of the film was the script. The screenplay was written by John Patrick Shanley, who wrote the movie Doubt, which is some of the best dialogue I've ever seen in a film. But he also wrote the screenplay to Congo, which had stuff like this.
Stop eating my sesame cake!
But this was a good screenplay. I particularly liked a lot of the imagery conjured with the dialogue. Like there's the recurring theme of wolves. Cher often compares Nicolas Cage's character to a wolf. And you've obviously got the big full moon in every other shot of the film. So apparently Nicolas Cage's performance was originally inspired by this like French production of Beauty and the Beast. And he really wanted to talk like the guy from that movie. And they actually filmed like 2 weeks worth of footage of him talking like that. Until the director had to tell him, hey, I look back at the footage, this is not working. And apparently John Patrick Shanley later told Nicolas Cage that the working title of the film was The Wolf and the Bride. Which I think is what Nicolas Cage was trying to channel into. Cage even has like a hairy beast, wolfman kind of look to him in this movie. By the way, I would pay good money to see the footage of Nicolas Cage delivering the I lost my hand, I lost my bride speech in a wolfman French accent. Now, the film does have a bit of a slow start, I would say. It takes about 25 minutes for Nicolas Cage to even show up, and those 25 minutes kind of drag to me. And even though I said this movie isn't your typical rom-com, it does fall into some of the tropes of a rom-com. They kind of do the thing at the start with Cher looking all disheveled with her hair tied back. Then they give her a makeover, and then they make her hair look all beautiful like mine. I also think the movie resolves all its plot lines way too easily. Like, the last scene of the film is literally characters walking into the breakfast table, sitting down one by one going, "Hey, you know that conflict I had in the film? Forget about it, huh?" It just really seemed like a cheap, lazy way out of the film. Overall, though, I like this film for what it is. I mean, romance films starring Cher, it's not particularly my cup of tea. But it's definitely better than your average rom-com. It does have a certain charm to it. The performances are solid, the dialogue was rich, and it certainly had some interesting characters. I can't say it held my attention the whole way through, and I wouldn't particularly recommend it to anybody unless this is really your kind of film. Although I would recommend that scene I was talking about earlier with Nick Cage with the hand. That is essential watching for any Nicolas Cage fan, and I'm glad I watched this movie for that alone. So apparently after doing this film, Nicolas Cage said he wants to get away from the whole romance thing, and he wanted to do something more punk and crazy. Which is a bizarre little movie up next called Vampire's Kiss, which I've never seen, but I've seen a million clips for, and I know it looks nuts. So until then, thanks for watching.